Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show. You are listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host. I am so happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Christine Sadry. Welcome to the podcast, Christine.
Thank you so much, Kim, and it's wonderful to be here with you.
I'm excited to talk to you. Why don't you just first tell us a little bit about where in the world you are and what you do?
Well, at the moment, I am here in Florida, in Naples. And after writing my book, I've just been working on promoting my book, in Barnes and Noble, speaking engagements and podcasts. And I'm just trying to get the word out for women that we can make it, we can overcome many things.
Yes, I love that message, and we're going to talk more about that because you've had a lot of things that happened to you in the beginning that we're going to kind of talk a little bit about. But why don't you just first tell us about a time in your life when you felt courageous or you showed courage?
I think, early in the beginning, I started with courage after the death of my mother, and my father had left, and my sisters were taken by family. My grandmother used to talk about America. And when you're behind the Iron Curtain, this was like the Holy Grail. And I would hear it. I didn't know much, but I heard about it. I heard it was this land of opportunity where you can make things, and it's the best place in the world that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day I was 8 years old, walking in my village, and I ran into this person, this man, and he asked me if I wanted to come to America. So I thought it was my calling. And I said yes. And so I think that my courage, the beginning of it was when they put me on a plane alone without any family at 9 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And I left and I came to the US, to JFK Airport. And that was the beginning of
And I'm like, who's waiting for you there? My
well,
goodness, 9 years
actually, when
old?
I arrived, no one was waiting there for me. And so, it was just,
Oh,
yeah. So I thought, I saw you're in a foreign country, you're a child, and I saw these people reuniting and meeting, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't see anyone. What will happen to me? So you had fears. I didn't know a soul, and I didn't speak the language. And about an hour or so later, this man that I recognized shows up, my adopted father,
mm-hmm.
and and I recognized them. And so we went back to Philadelphia where they lived and meeting my adopted mother. And that's how my life began.
Wow, at 9 years old. Did you have siblings then too, or was it just you?
I came alone. They had no
Okay.
children.
Okay.
My sisters were with my aunts and uncles. I had three sisters.
Okay.
And my understanding was when I arrived in America that, at 9 years old, you're not going to forget your family. So I thought I would be in touch with them somehow, at least. But within a very short time, I found out that he told me, you will never see your family again. You will never
Oh,
write to them. You have no family.
oh my gosh.
So the joy of having two parents and a beautiful life was really also the beginning of like a death of my family in Poland, the sadness, the loneliness, not knowing the language. So it was just a very rough beginning for me.
Yeah, for sure. That is an understatement. My goodness. So what happened after that? How did you get to be a UN peacekeeper and an author and all these wonderful things?
Well, I started actually first, going to school. And in the beginning, I was in the fourth grade, and they weren't even, they didn't know how to teach me the
Oh,
language. So I ended up covering children's book for a whole year. And I didn't know the language. My adopted mother didn't speak. So for a while there, I thought there was something wrong with me, that maybe I had mental problem, maybe I just wasn't capable. But slowly, once I went to, the next fifth, sixth, and seventh, I realized that I was so hungry for language. So
Mm.
I learned English with a very broken accent. And, it's difficult for an immigrant, especially alone in a foreign country with family that you sort of, I realized I wasn't the best fit for them, or however, it was a very
Mm.
difficult and at times abusive situation.
Mm.
But in the end, I ended up going to West Catholic Girls High School. And by the time I was going into my sophomore year, they said, well, we don't want to pay for you to go to high school. We're going to put you in public. And I
Mhm.
realized I was getting a good education. So I found a job. I was tall, so I found a job modeling, handing out
Oh.
American Express applications, and I put myself through high school. And then I figured if they didn't pay for my high school, they're not going to pay for me for college.
No.
At that time, West Catholic had the courses for like typing, shorthand, accounting, So I thought my best bet would be to take that course, going to school and working part-time. And this is where I started to find my independence, my strength. I think it's so important for women to make money, because once I had the money, I put myself through high school. So it was like, okay, I bought myself the little extra clothing. That's fine. I got
Mhm.
myself a little makeup. So all those things helped me to grow and find my stability.
Mhm.
And even though the family life was very difficult, and I was still very lonely, and I was very afraid to even contact my family because they followed me. They terrorized me never to contact them. When I turned
Oh.
18, I wrote a letter because I remembered all my family.
Mhm.
From 8 years old, I'm like, one day maybe I'll get lost and maybe I'll need it. So I
Sure.
remembered their address. Helena Moros, Wieś Krasny, Poczta Krasnopol, Powiat Sejny, Województwo Białystok.
Oh.
And I remember that from 8 years old. So one day at 18, I'm legal now. I write a letter, and finally I got an answer. And it was this weird letter. And it didn't feel right. And they started asking me for money. And then they sent me a picture. It didn't look familiar. And
Mhm.
I thought, So I stopped. I sent some money, but I'm like, something's not right there.
Mhm.
So then I sort of gave up on that. And then, like 13 years later, in total, I get a phone call from Chicago saying, I'm this private investigator, detective, and your sister had been looking for you in America. She's never given up for you. She's been searching.
Oh.
And I'm like, I've been fooled once. I don't want to get fooled again.
Yeah.
I said, oh, yeah. Well, I said, you tell my sister, if it is my sister, that she has to write to me. I'm not writing. It has to be in English. By then, I forgot the Polish language. And I
Mhm.
said, and if I think it's my sister, then I will write to her. So, of
Mm.
course, about nearly a year later, because there was such a long process. This is still communist Poland.
Mhm.
I get a letter from my sister, and it's all in the book. Dear Chris, I am your sister Elizabeth. I have never given up on finding you. We've searched you all our lives. We love you. We are thinking of you. And oh my God,
You
from
knew.
9 to 22, my whole world, just exploded, the tears. It was just such a painful
Mm.
to know all how much I've missed them, and all
Mhm.
this difficult time I had being this only child, not fitting in anywhere.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I did was invite my sister Teresa to come. I had to send her an invitation because it's a communist country and all these things. But then she came, and I wanted to go to Poland.
Mhm.
But when I left these people, I had no documents. They wouldn't give me anything. I
Oh
only had
no.
like a few pieces of clothing in this raggedy little suitcase. So, I mean, I knew I was naturalized citizen. I knew I was adopted. So I had to call courthouses in Philadelphia to get my documents, to find out who I am, and
Oh my gosh.
And I had to like remember when was my naturalization. And especially when you don't speak the language, you're so traumatized as a child to try
Yeah.
to remember to call what courthouses, what dates might be,
Wow.
what this, you know, to put your life together, your documentation of who you are. So finally, once I was able to do that, I got my passport. And I was telling Teresa, how do I get a visa to a communist country? And she said to me, well, I know a diplomat that's coming from Poland to the United Nations General Assembly. She said, and I'll talk to him and maybe he can help you.
Hmm.
So when he arrived, she called. And so he said, come to the United Nations with your stuff and I will help you get a visa to Poland. So I go
Oh.
to the UN. By then, I already was working with Social Security Administration for 6 years. I was an exception examiner. So I had my daughter,
Oh.
I had my own life.
Hmm.
But I went there and I remember thinking, oh my God, this is such a unbelievable place. All these nationalities, all these cultures are here. And I just said to him, what an amazing place to work at for. And he said, well, why don't you go apply? And I'm like, me? No. I said, you know, I have a job, first of all, and the United Nations is not good. He said, look, just go apply. What do you have to lose? Just
Yeah.
go try it. So I thought, okay, I'll, you know, I mean, he was very, very convincing. So I went, I got the application. And of course, I didn't apply for anything high level. It was like a clerical secretarial job.
Hmm.
And it took maybe a year. I had to go for tests, IQ tests, clerical tests, steno, typing, short, you know, all these different things.
Hmm.
I did pass. And finally, they called me and they hired me. And I ended up working for the International Conference on Women, which was to be held
Yay.
in Copenhagen, Denmark. I couldn't believe it. You know, I
Wow.
resigned from the other position. And it was very scary because Philadelphia, I already had a home, I had an apartment, I had a life and friends, I had a job.
Hmm.
And for me to join the UN, I could only go on a 3-month contract to start with. And I had to find a place to live. I've never been to New York. I didn't know a soul. And
Wow.
I had to resign from my job, which was the Social Security Administration, a US government job that I was already, you know, progressing in.
Hmm.
So it was very scary, but there's your moment. You know, get the courage. If you don't do it, you'll never find out. So I was like, okay. So my friend took care of my daughter. I lived at the YWCA for 2 weeks.
Oh
You
my
know, I
gosh.
just, it was just, you have to do what you have to do. But I loved it.
Hmm.
So in the end, I was able to find an apartment in Queens. I brought my daughter over. I loved just being in that environment. Everyone from the whole world. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
That must have been amazing. My daughter actually lived in New York for 4 months on an internship, and so I've been there. What an exciting place to be and to
Yes.
be able to
The
bring your daughter
energy,
there.
you know, the
Yeah.
energy. And this was like the late 70s. So I just, you know, you're alone, you're meeting these people. And
Yeah.
I loved it. For whatever reason, it was the right thing for me. You felt like you
Yeah.
belonged. But in the end, I had to leave while I was working on this international conference on women.
Hmm.
Pope John Paul II was elected, the
Okay.
Polish Pope, the first non-Italian Pope. And so he was coming to the United Nations his first day, you know, first time to the US. So I was talking to my friend Shirley because our boss worked in protocol. And I said, oh, Shirley, I'm Polish and here's this Polish Pope and I would love to. So she said, let me talk to Byron and maybe we can get some tickets for the Pope. This was Friday and he's coming on Monday. So
Hmm.
Monday morning I arrived, not knowing anything. Shirley calls me. She says, Chris, we have 10 tickets to see the Pope, but there's 23 staff and they're going to draw straws. And she said, your life was so shitty. You are not going to be the lucky one to get the right straw. Said, so come over and I'm going to give you a ticket to see the Pope. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
oh my
gosh.
God, I was so excited. So, you know, we hear the sirens of the Pope coming and everything. And I'm sitting with Shirley and she's giving me this ticket and I'm like hiding. And another girl who had connections, she had a ticket for the visitors lobby. And she's running off and she's like, Chris, you're not coming to see the Pope? I said, I have no tickets. So she grabs another ticket from Shirley and she says, come on. So now I have 2 tickets.
You have 2 tickets.
From zero, from nothing. So we go there, and I think he's coming in around 9:30. We're there, in the visitors lobby, and the Pope and his entourage walk in. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the moment. And he's walking, it looked like towards me, and I was in heaven. And then he took a right.
Oh, shoot.
And I was like, oh. So the secretary or someone from the entourage with the Pope comes over. It's like, he's not going to bring the Pope to me anyway. So
Yeah.
I decided, this was early, and I'm like, I still had that for the General Assembly, but that wouldn't be till like 2, 3 p.m. So I thought, oh my God, do I go back to work? I'm a new staff member. What do I do? But I'm like, the Pope is here. How can I have this ticket. How can I go back to work? I'm too excited. So I thought, let me go by the General Assembly. And the doors were closed, and I see all these people waiting for the Pope. There was like 50 people. I'm like, well, if they can wait, so can I. So we sat there waiting maybe like 2 hours. Finally, the doors open, and I end up sitting in the 10th row in the middle with the Pope there. And of course, it was the 2,000 people filled the General Assembly. There was diplomats, ambassadors, department heads, directors, assistant secretary, everyone was there. And I am like, oh my God, this little girl from this little village in Poland is here in the General Assembly watching the Polish Pope John Paul II speaking, and I'm in the 10th row. So at one point, a woman with a baby comes up, and the Pope blesses the baby. And then out of nowhere, I feel my body getting up, and I hear an echo in my ear saying, excuse me. I'm thinking, what is going on? And something has taken me over. Yeah. And I find myself walking to the podium, and I'm talking to God, please let me sit down. Please, God, they're going to fire me. They're going to like shoot me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my feet, and they're moving one in front of the other. It was like the whole time. And there's 2,000 people sitting. So I get to the podium, and there's a rope, and I'm standing there, and I can't do anything. I can't speak. I'm just standing there, like still praying to God, just let me sit down and forget the whole thing.
Get me out of this.
Yes. And the security comes and grabs my hand and says, go sit down. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move.
Oh my gosh.
So the secretary from the entourage of the Pope comes over, grabs my other hand, and they're both holding it like this. And he said, stay there. And they both got frustrated and left. Oh my God, please help me. And then it gets worse. I'm standing there. They both left. And then my hands start going up to the Pope, and they go up and they go up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. And I'm looking at my hands like, where are they going now? And they go up. And as I'm standing there with 2,000 people behind me, embarrassed and wanting to die in that moment, the Pope finishes his statement, turns around, and stretches his hands out to me.
Oh my gosh.
And at that very moment, the security removes the rope, and I go up to the Pope. He hands me his ring, and I kiss the ring, and he gives me a papal blessing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you just melt? I mean,
I cried.
I bet. I bet.
So, and then people, once they saw that people from the first, second, I started to rush, I guess, for a blessing. And I remember being pushed, and I was in shock, because I just remember, like, I was just in shock. I remember tears coming down, and I just didn't know what even happened to me.
Oh my goodness. That was like almost an out of body experience, but you're in your body. Like,
yeah.
That's so
because
cool.
There was, like, people said to me later, why didn't you tell me you were going to do this? I would take pictures. There was never any thought of me doing anything, like, I'm 6 months at the UN. I mean, I'm quiet as a mouse, just so happy to be there. So it was like, to me, at that moment when I saw how he moved millions, I felt like God sees you. He knows, even though you went through so much suffering, so much pain, so much loneliness, God sees you. and it was a moment that I will never forget. I will never
Yeah.
forget.
You must have felt like there was a reason that that happened. Did you think afterwards, like, what can I do with this experience? Or was it conscious a thought, like, what can I take from this and move forward with? Or was it just living in that moment and
It
enjoying
was
that?
just living in that moment, and I mean, it was so unbelievable because I saw how he moved people, and I couldn't believe
Yeah.
that he just arrived and this happened to me. And
Mhm.
I felt like God noticed me, like
Mm.
you weren't alone. You weren't suffering alone. All
Yeah.
the abuse you received, all the loneliness, all the tears you shed. I was with you. So it was that.
Goosebumps. Gave me goosebumps. That's amazing. So 6 months at the UN, the Pope blesses you. What can top that? What comes after
Well,
that?
I couldn't go to Copenhagen because I had my daughter with me. So I switched to another UN agency, UN
Mhm.
Population Fund. And that's where I stayed most of the time for the next 10 years. And I ended up working on an international conference on population in the urban future, small, medium sized cities, international conference on population in Mexico City, Amsterdam, Barcelona. And I loved it because it was always very challenging. It was a lot of data. It was admin, but documentation. And it was very interesting. But
Mhm.
after so many years, I thought, I want to go in the field. And my friend Shirley used to always give me this idea about Africa. Her sister was in Cape Town, and she would talk about Africa. The way she talked about it was so beautiful. And it always stayed in my mind. And the UN started peacekeeping missions. They had one in Namibia, where Namibia became its own country, but I couldn't go back then. Then there was Cambodia. I was working on an executive board. I couldn't do that either. But one day, I was sitting at lunch with some girls, and we were between executive boards. And one woman says, I received a phone call from Mr. Shu in personnel asking me to go to Angola to be an electro observer. But I had to tell him I couldn't go because of all the work that I had. So I ran back to the office. I got the United Nations phone book. I found Mr. Shu and I said, Hello, Mr. Shu. This is Christine so and so. I hear you're looking for people to go to Angola. I would love to meet with you tomorrow at 4 o'clock and discuss this. Are you available?
Look
He
at
said,
you.
Sure. So I go there and I present myself. And he said, okay. And so about 2 months later, I got a one-way ticket to go to Luanda, Angola, where there was a civil war.
Oh,
And it was a long flight. Back then, there was no emails. So there was a fax or whatever was sent out. And they changed my dates. And I was supposed to go for 2 weeks. It turned into 2 months.
oh
And
wow.
I wasn't sure anybody would be waiting for me at the airport again.
Again, at least you weren't
So,
9 years old this time.
yeah, this time I'm like, whatever, 30 something. So I'm thinking, okay, what happens if no one is there and I am in Luanda, Angola, and nobody's there, and there's no telephone, and I don't speak the language, and I know no one.
Oh no.
So, but there were all these businessmen going because it has a lot of oil from America, from Britain, from France, from Belgium.
Mm.
So I figured they're all going to some hotel. Now, if nobody's waiting for me, I'm just going to follow with the taxi and go there. You have to have a plan B.
Makes sense.
So, but as I walk out with these two huge suitcases in this dingy, dark, scary airport, because there's a civil war, there's nothing, no
Mm.
lights, there's just, I see a UN car with a flag looking like it was pulling out. So I walk out, I drop my suitcase, and I'm running, screaming, Stop, UN staff. So the guy stops, thank God. He says, Who are you? I said, I'm Christine. Oh, you're supposed to arrive tomorrow.
Oh, oh no. Surprise.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So we go to our camp and they put me in this 8 by 10 container because that's where like a holding
Oh my
pad
gosh.
before they decide where to put you, what region.
Hmm. Ladies, you know I believe midlife is not the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. That's why I created the Courage and Confidence Hour, a monthly space just for us to connect, share, and shine. Here's what you can expect during this 3-month program. Each month, we'll gather on Zoom for an uplifting, heart centered hour that helps you quiet self doubt, find your voice, and build the kind of confidence that ripples into every area of your life. You'll leave each session feeling lighter, braver, and more energized to take on your next chapter. And the best part? You don't have to do it alone. You'll be surrounded by women who truly get it, who lift you up and remind you that you're not behind, you're right on time. We're kicking things off this October with a special beta launch at an introductory price, and I'd love for you to be a part of this founding circle. If you're ready to feel more connected, courageous, and confident in your everyday life, this is your invitation. Just click the link in the show notes to sign up and join us.
But I got myself on a Russian supply plane to check out the places. And I ended up going to Cerrimo, living in a tent for 2 months and mapping out roads to the electoral places in 22 villages. Okay. So it's like you get to a banana tree, 3 kilometers, you take a left. You see an anthill, 3.5 kilometers, you take a right, and I loved it. But nothing happened. We were safe. The villagers were nice. They even offered us bananas it was very interesting. But one day I came back to call my daughter, and because there was no phone. So I had to fly back like on the supply plane to Luanda to make a phone call. And I met some friends, and we decided to go to a restaurant called Barracuda. And there was like 4 or 5 of us, and we're going, and there's a safe long way and a quicker, not so safe short way. And I'm like, take the short road.
Oh boy.
So we're saving a half an hour. So we take the short road, we go around the bend, and as we turn around, there's a guy in fatigues with an AK-47 pointed at us.
Oh no. Oh no.
And he's looking straight at us, and so what are you going to do? So we pull up. He motions with the gun to bring the window down. Mm-hmm. Thank God the military guy is like, we don't separate. Whatever you do, if we're going to survive this, we must be calm. Mm-hmm. We must listen to whatever I say to you, and we must stay together. Mm. So the captain rolls down the window. The guy puts a gun to his head and says, get out. Gosh. And it's like a movie because you can't believe you're in this situation. But we were in panic. No one screamed. And we're like, he said, smile. I'm going to slowly put my foot on the gas and move. And we're like, United Nations. He said, when I tell you to drop in the bottom of the car, I'm going to hit the gas and we're going to run away.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what we did.
Wow.
Never took that road again.
Yeah, I hope not. Oh my gosh.
So I loved it. I mean, you survive. It's really good. So I stayed there 2 months. I did the quick count. And of course, thank God, no one got killed. So we were a little bit more careful. Mm-hmm. And I thought I really liked this mission life. So, because you feel like you're doing something, you're out there, you're meeting people, you're helping the world. And so once I got back to my office, got back to my job in New York at the UN FPA, I decided I wanted to go on another peacekeeping mission. So it took me almost a year to get myself to go to Mozambique. There was another civil war there. And so I ended up working in the general section. And Maputo is lovely. I had a great job. It was also admin work and then office. And by then I was there like a few months. And one lady was having a party for her birthday. And we were all invited. And I got myself sort of invited, just to meet more people. Yeah. And my daughter came to visit me because I wanted her to experience also to see the world.
Sure.
We both got dressed up to go to this house, and it's a nice house. And this lady, actually, her birthday was that day. So we all, sort of wished her happy birthday, brought her a gift, And I saw that there was the Assistant Secretary General, which was the deputy head of the mission there. Mm. And everybody was around him. And I thought it was the only polite thing to do was to say, everyone was saying, hello, sir, because he was the big boss.
Yeah.
So I thought, can't be rude. So I
Right.
decided to walk up, and then I think my daughter was with me. And I said, hello, sir. Good evening. How are you today? Very politely.
Mm.
He says, you have ugly shoes. And I was like, what? I said, well, you have bad taste. I said, no, no, no. Your shoes are ugly. And we went into this little,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I'm like, I thought I better get away from this because I could get fired. He's the big boss, and I don't want to tell him how bad his taste is.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't go well.
I went to another room. I sat on a poof and I'm just talking to people, enjoying the whole situation. And about 10 minutes later, he comes over and very politely says, may I sit with you? I said, of course. So he pulls over another poof. And we had this wonderful conversation. He was charming. He was funny, polite, kind, good looking.
Mhm.
Well, from that moment on, we were together 30 years.
I was gonna say there's a love story there, I think.
Yes.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So then did you keep doing your missions after that, or
Yes,
at some point did
actually,
you leave or?
well, we stayed there. We were going out. We stayed there, and of course, he was so good that he brought the whole peace process together. We had thought we would stay there a year, but he really negotiated. He was extremely very high level, extremely competent diplomat. That in 6 months he brought about the peace process, and we left to go back to New York.
Mhm.
So while in New York, we were seeing each other, and the war in Yugoslavia was going on.
Mm.
So he said the Secretary General would like me to go there to be Assistant Secretary for Management and Administration. He said, would you like to join me?
Mm.
Sure.
Why not?
Let me get my release from the supervisor, the deputy director, the director of personnel. I mean,
Oh my
there's so
gosh.
many people to go through. It's massive. So I
Mhm.
said, let me see how I can do that. And anyway, in the end, it all happened. So we ended up in the former Yugoslavia. We were in Zagreb, Croatia. And I worked also on property survey and management board. And I did board of inquiry investigations. And his job was to break up UNPROFOR into three missions, one in Sarajevo, one in Vukovar, and a small one in Zagreb. And he did that, and his work was finished in about 6 months. But my job let me have a full year out of office.
Mm.
So he said, are you ready to go back to New York? I'm like, no, I have 6 more months. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to Vukovar, not knowing what I would do. So when I got there, I mean, the place was so blown up. There were so many wars between the Croats and the Serbs. Every house was destroyed. The place where I stayed with like three other girlfriends, there was blood
Mm.
in this little 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, it was just the people were devastated. And so I was there, and I found out I was the chief of board of inquiry.
Oh.
And I'm like, I did one board of inquiry in Angola, so at least I knew how to do it.
Mhm.
Thinking, oh my God. So I had to get transport back to Zagreb, get all the documentation, learn what to do.
Oh,
It was a quick learning curve because I had to get
yeah.
people to be on boards. I had to get the medical, I had to get a database, I had to get the military records. Yeah, it was quick.
That's a lot, and you had to learn it on the fly.
Yeah, it was on the fly, but I'm like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
really think the man who assigned me to that post, I think he did it on purpose to stick me, because it was a very difficult
Oh.
position. But he was mad at Bay, my partner,
Mhm.
because he had sent him there, and I don't think he wanted to go there. So he's like, he gave me this really, really tough job. But I'm like, I am going to do it. I'm going to
I'll
do a
show
great job.
him.
Yes. And I
Oh my
did.
gosh. I was going to ask before you brought that up, was there any time when you felt as a woman you were talked down to or treated not as fairly during that whole thing?
Well, I think that was the one moment to put me in as chief of board of inquiry. Okay, I'm smart. woman, but
Hmm.
I'm high school graduate, on my own, pulling my own bootstraps,
Yeah.
and paying for my own high school. So I just felt that it was very tough, and I had to do it well because I knew that if I screwed up, the word would have been known. It would have
Sure.
I would have been bashed to no end. So I had to be smart. I had to learn the rules and regulations. I had to know who to contact. I had to write emails to these people, notices that would be, they had to participate, but not demanding, but yet pleading because it was an additional work to them. So it was everything,
Yeah.
and not to miss any cases. And it was tough, but so yeah,
But you did it and
but
you
I did
showed
it.
him.
And then, of course, Bay, who by then we were seeing each other, he had retired because once he went back to New York, so he just at one point came and stayed with me in Vukovar. So I'm thinking this highly competent, so efficient diplomat, assistant secretary general, is now staying with me in
Oh my
Vukovar while I'm going to work.
gosh.
And it was crazy, but I loved it. I'm like, he must love me to do this.
Oh, of course, of course.
And so I think the Secretary General noticed, his potential. So at some point while I was there, he was assigned back to Angola because they needed a deputy representative there. So he wouldn't go without me. So we
Mm.
go back to Angola. And there they made me a board member of the Board of Inquiry. So I wasn't in charge, but I
Uh-huh.
was a permanent member of the board,
Mm-hmm.
which was helpful because I was able to see how other people do it, learn more about it.
Sure.
And at some point there were some different things going on, but after about a year, we ended up going back to New York. I went back to my job,
Mm-hmm.
and life was good. And then in 2000, we were watching CNN, and 500 hostages were taken in Sierra Leone.
Mm.
So we turned it off, and I said, the UN's going to call you. He's like, yeah, right. I said, no, they need you to negotiate these hostages to get out. Yeah, right. We shut off the TV. An hour later, the phone rings. He said, it's the UN. He said, they want me to go to the office tomorrow. They want to talk to me. I said,
Mm.
you're going to Sierra Leone. Oh, no, no, no. Came down. I'm going to Sierra Leone.
You called it.
He said, they want me only there for like 2, 3 weeks and I'll be back.
Mm.
About 2 months later, he says, do you want to come and join me in Sierra Leone? We ended up being there 3 years.
Oh
And
my
guess what?
gosh.
My job was there to set up the board of
Board of
inquiry,
inquiry.
hire people, put it together. Mind you, there were 500 hostages. So I had caseloads of maybe, I did over 100 board of inquiries during my time there.
So this little 9-year-old girl from Poland gets sent to the US and she ends up doing all these great things in the world.
I would have never imagined. I mean, from the loneliness and from these people, I wasn't allowed out for 2, 3 years. I never went out. I had no friends. I didn't speak the
Oh,
language. I was terrified. They thought I would
yeah.
try to contact my family. He used to follow me. I mean,
Wow.
they were physically and verbally abusive. I was in hell. I
Yeah.
met the devil. I really did.
Yeah.
And so to sort of survive, to know we as women, as humans, have resilience. We
Yeah.
can move on. That what has happened, our past does not define us.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most important things that I can tell you that I did, which I think was the biggest turning point in my life, was when I left the abuse and this family. I remember thinking, let it go, let that go, let the emotions, the hate, or whatever you feel, just close that door. Don't dwell on it. Don't try to change it. Don't get even with it. Don't hate them. Don't do anything. Let that be. You survived. You're okay. He didn't rape me, thank God. I wasn't killed. I had a few concussions, but
Oh
you
my
know
gosh.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was really, really difficult time.
Yeah.
So we can do it, but you have to believe in yourself. Once I closed that door, I just was like, okay, what's the next thing? And you never give up. I would just, okay, this door open, I'm going to go through it. What am I going to be scared of? I left at 9 years old to a foreign country to be alone. Nothing is going to, and the only thing you have to fear is fear itself.
Yeah.
We can survive. The only thing I ever hoped that wouldn't happen is to be taken a hostage.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, I think, I'd rather be dead than be a hostage, because I didn't want to suffer. I suffered enough. I went through hell. So my only concern ever, whenever I was in these war countries, was just to keep myself safe. And that's the only thing I prayed to God, that I would never be a hostage.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to tell you, I did learn how to drive a tank.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to say a car, but a tank?
Yeah, we had in the former Yugoslavia, behind the Zagreb airport, because it's a stressful job. You have war, bombed out building, there's, gunfire going back and forth. Oh. So the Major Hogan from the British Royal Army, we used to have R&R. And this was behind the airport. And we would have, barbecue. This was maybe once a month or something little. Mm-hmm. And one of the things one day he said, and we have a tank here. So whoever wants to learn how to drive a tank, let me know and I'll show you. And I'm like, shit, I do. So, so I get in the tank, he starts it up. He tells me, that the handle is the gas, but you press it up and down and how to stop it. And here I was alone in a tank. And for the next 30 minutes, I went up and down the hills and across the roads driving this tank.
Oh my gosh. Did you run over anything, like on purpose?
No.
Oh.
But I had this one moment where I was good, because we were behind the airport. I was thinking, let me just drive to the airport in this tank. But then I thought, okay, they couldn't do anything. I'm in a tank. They couldn't shoot. But once I got out, they could arrest me.
Oh, there's that.
So, so I'm like, maybe just go back and park the tank.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool. If I had that opportunity, I'd for sure take that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Oh my gosh. So all these things you've done and you've seen and you've experienced, what do you look for in the future? We talk about purpose. We're always trying to find our purpose. What do you think is your future purpose? What's coming up for you, Christine?
I think right now, I've written this book. So my purpose is to speak about it. I think women, give their power away too often, or they don't believe in themselves, or, they feel overwhelmed. And I believe that, just read my book. You have so much ability. You have so much power. You have so much strength. Don't depend on anyone. The only person that you can and should depend is on yourself. You have the soul. You have the strength. You have the resilience. It's you, and I just want women to know that there's a great life ahead for them if they just don't give up and they find their value. They are valuable. And it's important to be financially independent. You cannot be dependent. No matter how much someone loves you, you still have to have that independence. You have to, because nobody can take care of better than you, yourself.
I love that. Such a good message. And you mentioned the book, 13 Years Lost. That's your memoir, correct?
That is my memoir, and it's all in there. You can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
And Barnes and Noble, and I have a website, christinesadry.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, Christine Sadry.
Okay. We'll put the link to your website and the book link and everything so people can find that. You said you did connect with your sisters. Did you ever go back to Poland to see them?
Yes.
Okay.
I went back after my sister Teresa arrived. And that's when I went to the General Assembly to meet with the diplomat. And as soon as he helped me get the visa, I went to Poland.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I didn't know what to expect. Here I am 9, and now I'm like 23.
Mhm.
And it was like, and I didn't know how to feel because
Mhm.
it was too overwhelming. So I remember thinking to myself, just look at it as a dream. You're going into a dream world. You're allowed to feel everything. You can cry, you can laugh. This is just, don't think what's going on, just feel it, just live it. And once we got into Poland, the plane, I remember all of these guns were pointed at us because it's a communist country. So we landed and all these military surrounded the plane with guns. And I'm thinking, that's what I left. Oh my God.
Mhm.
And then I come out and I don't even know what my, they send me pictures by then, but I haven't seen I loved Ella, the oldest sister. She was like my second mother.
Mhm.
And I'm looking and there's all these faces, all these people, greeting each other. And there was one moment and I saw the face of my sister Elizabeth. And I was like coming home again. It was, we just cried and cried. And yeah. And then, of course, I met my sister Joanna and my two half sisters, Ella. And yeah, but it was still it was like two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
They were so different.
Mhm.
I'm in this little town in a communist country with this family that I've known since I was a baby, and now I am American, never had to have seen them for 13 years from going through all this trauma. And it was like, it was, my head was exploding.
I bet. I bet. Oh my goodness. Oh, I've had goosebumps many, many times during this conversation. This is awesome. So, oh gosh. Well, Christine, I feel like you have so many more stories that we could talk about, but I want listeners to get your book and read them in
Oh,
there.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, yes, 13 years lost. Yes. Wonderful. You've given us so much already, but is there one last little message you want to give the listeners before we say goodbye?
I just want women to know, believe in themselves, believe in your strength, in your resilience, and in your power as a woman. Just be kind and believe in yourself.
Love it. Thank you so much, Christine. It's been wonderful talking with you today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
All
Thank you.
right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to Midlife with Courage. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave a review, or even better, send a link of this episode to a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.